Allman, you've already been sworn. Mitchell, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Allman. Can you introduce yourself to the court and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Christopher Allman, A-L-L-M-A-N.
Mr. Allman, what do you do for a living?
I'm a physical education teacher.
Where do you work?
I work at the Dallas County School Board.
Can you tell us about what happened October 8th?
Okay, so I went through my normal classes. At the end of the day, the principal called me down to his office. He explained to me that the kids, or that the bus driver, one of them was sick and they didn't have enough buses to bring all the kids home. So he asked me to drive the bus home for him and for them.
So you did drive the bus?
Yes, I did.
And how did that go?
It went fine. I mean, the first 6 stops went well. What I did was I got my map from Miss Jones. She's a bus driver. She's been a bus driver for a long time. She drew me a map. I took that, got the kids on the bus, and I know the kids from gym class, so they were a little bit rowdy, but that's normal for us, and just drove them one by one, dropped them off. They kind of told me where their bus stops were because they knew I was the gym teacher and not the normal bus driver. And then at the last bus stop, that's when the incident happened that we're here about today.
At stops 1 through 6, did you have any problems?
No, I followed the map. The intersections where I was supposed to stop, I stopped. The parents were there to pick them up, or the kids just walked right into their home. And then I went on to the next stop and made sure, you know, the kids were telling me where to go and all that.
So then at the last stop, stop 7, were any parents there?
No, there were no parents there.
What happened at that stop?
Well, I was in a neighborhood on the, let's say the right side of Waters. We were in and throughout that whole neighborhood. That's where all 6 stops were. And then the 7th stop, I asked the young girls where they normally stop. They told me that this was fine. So I made a right onto Waters in order just to stop some of the traffic because there was a lot of traffic going on. I put my stop sign out, the traffic stopped. I let the girls out. I was a little upset that the parents weren't there because that was the busiest stop area. And then the girls started to cross in front of the bus, which I was surprised about. I thought they were going into the neighborhood where all the other stops were. And as they got to the median, the other side of the traffic didn't have to stop. So they were driving by, the kids stopped on the median, looked both ways, and the older girl kind of just walked out into the road. My window was down. I yelled, "Stop," out of the window. I heard even the little girl, her younger sister, yell, "Stop," and she just kept going, and then the lady in the black, or the man in the black SUV hit her. Did
you see the SUV hit Rebecca?
I did.
What happened? Can you describe that for us?
Yeah, it was awful. She just walked out in the road. The SUV was speeding down the road. It looked like the guy was on the phone, not paying attention. There was no cars around him. And, you know, I saw the little girl go out. I yelled for her to stop. This guy wasn't slowing down. And then at the last minute, he hit the brakes and he ran right into her.
Okay. No
And
further
she
questions.
flew through the area.
Thank you, Mr. Allman. No further questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good evening, Mr. Allman. You're a gym teacher, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Although you're a gym teacher, you agreed to be a bus driver on October 8th.
I did.
Year. And you've never drove a bus before that date, correct?
No, I didn't.
In fact, you were surprised that you were asked to drive the bus, correct?
Yeah, I was surprised.
You state in your deposition that you are aware that you have to have a special driver's license to legally drive the bus, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't have that license, correct?
I do not.
So you don't have the license, yet you still agreed to drive the bus that day?
Yes.
So if you don't have the license, you legally broke the law that day that Rebecca was killed by driving the bus, correct?
Yes.
And you knowingly broke the law by driving the bus?
I was trying to help the school out. I'd been under a little bit of pressure, and yes, I did. I drove without the license. That's my fault. Yes.
And you did that in order to be a team player at school, right?
Yes, I was under some pressure because I haven't graduated college. They were keeping me there in hopes that I would and be able to teach a couple more classes, and I felt this was my way to step up and help the principal out.
So when you let Rebecca off, you couldn't tell where to stop as far as the diagram that was given to you, correct?
No, the stop said an intersection. So like it was, the intersection was starred, just like the intersection on the first 6 stops were starred, and I just asked the kids where they got off, and they told me, and Rebecca told me that she was good anywhere. So I tried to stop some of the traffic by turning onto Waters.
So you just followed Rebecca's instruction to let her off anywhere?
I did.
Would you have listened to her if she told you to let her out in an unsafe neighborhood?
No, I would not.
But you did listen to her when she asked you to let her out at an unsafe location?
Like I said, I thought she was going into the neighborhood that we were next to. I don't have a lot of skill driving a bus. I'm not trained to do that. So I felt making a U-turn and turning the bus through all those lanes of traffic would have been more dangerous. So I was just trying to do what I thought was best by dropping her off in the intersection that was marked.
So you allowed a 12-year-old to alter the bus route for you, even though you had been drawn a diagram of one?
She didn't alter the bus route. I was going by which intersection I was supposed to drop the kids off in, and I dropped the kids off in the intersection I was supposed to. The kids get dropped off there every day, and that's why I asked her where she normally gets dropped off, and she said that that was the spot.
And you did that because you were hungry?
Objection.
What's the objection?
Objection. Calls for an opinion.
All right, I'm gonna overrule the objection.
You can answer.
Repeat the question.
So, I mean, I didn't stop there because I was hungry. I stopped there because that was the stop on the map, that intersection.
Okay, so you state in your deposition that the school board disciplined you, is that correct?
I mean, I got chewed out.
So by discipline you meant like a slap on the wrist, right?
I got yelled at for well, Ms. Jones said that she didn't give me the map that I had, but she gave me the map that I had. I tried to look up what the normal map looked like, and I couldn't find it on the internet, and they said that it was my fault that the kids got hit, and I just dropped them off in the intersection like they told me to. They didn't show me where on the intersection to drop them off, and once they're out of my sight, I even tried to yell at them to stop when they were crossing the street, and they wouldn't stop.
And in your deposition, when asked whether there was anything you could have done to avoid the accident, your response was, not really. That's what you said, right?
My job was to bring them to the intersection and drop them off. I didn't know where on the intersection. I did the best I could, but once they were out of my property or my purview of me being in control of them, there wasn't much I could do to stop them from crossing the street, running across the street, or going any direction. I mean, they could run across the street any day they get dropped off, no matter what area they're on. The parent should have been there to pick them up if they're gonna be dropped off on a busy intersection.
So instead of answering a definitive no to that question, you chose to respond, not really.
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained. Go ahead and move on to the next question.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Any redirect?
Mr. Alman, when Rebecca was in your classes with you at school, was she safe?
Yes,
And did you make sure she was safe? on the school bus on the ride home?
Absolutely.
And when you saw that she was about to walk in front of the traffic, what did you do?
I yelled at her to stop.
And what did she do?
She kept going. She walked across the street.
And the black SUV you saw speeding towards her, was there a car on the left or the right of that SUV?
No, they were by themselves. They have full sight. I mean, if they were watching, they should have seen that little girl coming.
Did you see the SUV try to swerve?
No,
Did you hear the SUV honk its horn?
I did not.
Did the SUV stop before hitting her?
No. I mean, she braked at the last second and there was a screech and then she got hit and thrown through the air.
No further questions.
Thank you. And the witness may step down.